Hey, what's up guys, it's Theo from Fino Concept. So today we are going to animate the Google logo in Adobe Photoshop. Alright, let's get started. So let's go ahead and open up our application. For this tutorial, I'm using Adobe Photoshop 2023. I'll go ahead and click on a new file. And I'll set my width and height to 1920 for the width and 1080p for the height. The orientation is set to landscape and the resolution 300, but if you want to send it into 4K, you can also do that. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually bring up my rulers, of course. So hold down the control key and press R, and I'll click and drag from the left hand side and place it at the center like so. Then I'll click and drag from the top and I'll place it at the center as well. Now we actually need an image for reference, so I have the Google logo from here. I'll right click and go to copy image, and I'll come back to Photoshop, hold down the control key and press V to paste it in there. So the idea is to recreate this whole thing, then we animate it accordingly. So let's go ahead and do that. I believe the font used for this is the Roboto font, which I already have. If you don't have it, then I'll try and leave a link in the description below so that you can get it as well. So let's go ahead and type it in here. So Roboto, that is going to be here. I'm choosing the black version and I'll type the letter G, so a capital G. Let's go ahead and increase the size. Apparently this doesn't look like the Roboto font. No, well, let's go with Gotham or Masterclasses. Let's try the Gotham font and see how that is looking like. Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with this one instead. So let's select the bold version of black, regular, pro black. I think this is much better. So let's increase the size to about 200 or 180. Let's go ahead and use the 180. So this is what we are going to be using as our reference. Let me reduce the size. So I'll select the move tool, V on your keyboard, and I'll resize it to about the same height and width so that I can just play around with it. So let's bring this to the bottom, and the main image, I'm going to reduce the opacity so that I can see what I'm actually doing. So about 30% is fine. Let's also change the color of this so that we can actually see what you are doing. White on white is not so visible. Alright, so the first thing we are going to create, if I increase this opacity, you can see we have the red. So in my case, I'll just be using the polygonal lasso tool. That is going to be the second lasso tool from here. I'll just click around like so. And if I hide this or toggle this off, you can see we have our G in here. In fact, let me see how many images. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 colors to deal with. So let's duplicate this 4 times. So 1, 2, or you can just use Ctrl J to do that. So select the layer, Ctrl J, and it will create the duplicate for you. So let's work with the first one. I have to recreate the selection, so something like this. Then I'll double click and select this particular color and hit OK. So if I turn this off, this is what we have. But okay, we can see we have a little bit of space in here. Let's correct that using the shift key. So hold down the shift key, click and select this part as well. Then it just highlights as so. So once we have our selection, I'll just click on the add layer mask icon and it creates a layer mask for us. Now this is looking much better. So we can go ahead and hide this for a second, and let's go to the second one. Again, I'll click somewhere around here. Now I have my selection. Let's go back to our image and create a layer mask. Also, let's change the color to the yellow color. Let me bring this back so that I can see the color I'm changing it to. Alright, now let's do the third one. So that is going to be the green color, something like this. Also double click, change the color to green, and let's see what we have. Okay, so let's create the layer mask as well, and this is what we have. I have to correct this part as well. Alright, so with layer mask, you know, if you have a dark portion, it means you are hiding that part of the layer, and white means you are revealing. So if I grab the brush tool, currently it is set to black, so if I brush over here, you can see it is hiding, but we actually want to reveal, so I'll change it to white and just brush over here, and it is revealing that portion for me. So the last one is going to be the blue one, which we can just double click and change the color to this blue we have here. So if you go ahead and hide this and reveal all of these, this is what we have. You actually can see because the blue is on top, so I just have to bring it back beneath, and this is what we have. So now we have our G for Google. Let's go ahead and group them up. So Control G will group them up, or you can just highlight everything, select the layer at the extreme end, hold down the shift key and select the one at the top or the one at the bottom, and click on the group icon from here, and it is going to group them up. Now the idea is to animate this, so go into window and find the timeline option, which is right here. It should pop up at the bottom, and I'll just click on create video timeline. By default, Photoshop is going to create a 5-second video timeline for you, so if you want to extend it, you can just go ahead and extend it by clicking and dragging them out. So if you just click and drag, it's going to extend them, but I think 5 seconds for this is just fine. Now we want to animate all of these one at a time, so I'll select this. I think I should probably just name it. So this is going to be the blue one, so double click on the name and change it to something you can remember. So blue for this, this is red, this is yellow, and this should be green. All right, now let's take a look at the options we have as at now. So if I click and drag this here, I want more space here. If I click on this little arrow we have here, you see we have the transform, we have the opacity, style, layer mask, position, layer mask enabled, and we have the text wrap. We are actually looking for just the transform option. Now if we bring up the move tool, that is what we use for transformation, and select the green one, if we go ahead and rotate this, excuse me, if I click on any of the edges and go ahead and rotate this, this is what we have. So as you can see, you can just go ahead and rotate the green. So what we are going to do is actually create keyframes for our transformation. So we start off with the red, then the yellow, the green, then the blue is going to be the last one. Now before we can proceed, we have to make sure all of these are rasterized, else we can't make any adjustment to it. So I'll right click on the green, rasterize type, right click on the yellow, rasterize type, do the exact same thing for the red, and the exact same thing for the blue. Then I'll go ahead and merge all of these layer masks, so I'll apply them to the yellow, to the green, and to the red. So if I go ahead and move these, you notice this is all that we have. Basically that's the idea. But unfortunately, once you rasterize, you do not get the transform options, and that is what we want. So another way to deal with this is to make it a smart object. So you can just right click and go to convert to smart object, right click, convert to smart object, right click, and do the exact same thing for the whole thing. In hindsight, I just realized you don't even have to rasterize first, because you can just convert to smart objects right away, and that is also going to work for you. So if you go back to the green, you notice we have our transform options active. So I'll go in about 15 frames, create a keyframe. This is going to be the final place I want the green to be, so I'll create the final keyframe here. Then I'll move over to the beginning and I'll go ahead and transform it. So hold down the control key, press T, then I have the transform options right here. So let's go ahead and rotate this, something weird like so, and click on OK. Then I'll do the exact same thing for the yellow. So this is going to be the final part for the green. The yellow is going to be over here. So let's go into the yellow options, click on transform, come to the beginning and transform that as well. So rotate it so slightly like so, and you can even change the position if that is what you are also into. I think something like this is fine. Now if you go ahead and transform it, yeah, this is what we have. Now let's do the exact same thing for the last one, which is the red. So this is going to be the final part. create a keyframe, a transform keyframe, go back to the beginning and transform it. I think I want it over here, and just click on OK. So if you go ahead and play this whole thing, this is what we have. Now this is looking weird already, and that is just fine. Now obviously you can do a lot more with this, but this is more or less like just to give you a fair idea of what you can create. Your creativity is what is going to limit your work. So in actual sense, if you have the actual logo, as you can see, which is much circular, that is going to animate much more nicely than just using the text as we saw in this video. So once any of you tries this thing out, I like to know how it turned out. You can tag me on Instagram at PhenoConcept, and I'll be more than happy to reply to any of your posts or even comment on a couple of them. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel and other channels which I have them linked below, and as always, don't forget to share with your family and friends. This is Theo from PhenoConcept, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.